Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. A huge welcome to Produce, Mix, Fix and Conquer. My name is Rich Steve Beck. Huge welcomes. If you're watching us on YouTube, feel free to join in and comment and send through some questions to our amazing guest. And if you missed the interview, feel free to catch up on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/Produce, Mix, Fix and Conquer. And to join our community, if you're watching on YouTube, go over to Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/Produce, Mix, Fix and Conquer. So we've got a fantastic guest coming up very shortly. She is an incredible guitarist. She's an amazing composer and an amazing producer. She's very famous for being the guitarist and composer for the theme tune for Whose Line Is It Anyway? So without further ado, Linda Taylor. How you doing, Linda?
Hey, Rich. Good. How are you?
Really good. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's fantastic to see you here.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, so have I. Massively. Absolutely. Can't wait. So much fun. So today let's have a chat about your amazing past. So how you started at the very beginning in your music career, and have a chat about maybe some of the amps and some of the gear that you use in your studio, if that's cool. So like the rest of our guests, let's start at the very beginning. So what music were you listening to as a kid? Was it your parents that inspired you, or your friends that inspired you at the very beginning?
I wish. My parents were not really into music, so there wasn't any music in the home. So I started playing guitar when I was 3, and I think I just may have seen like a variety show, like a Glenn Campbell variety show or something like that. And so, but I was taught kind of differently. My parents, like I said, they're not musicians, so they just come at it from an education. So you find a music teacher, and I was taught, how to read on the first string and how to read on the second string and that kind of thing. And so I always kind of read, which was wonderful down the road because there's a lot of work to be had if you're a reading guitar player. It did, I think, hold me back a little on the ear training, so when it's time to learn Stairway, I go buy sheet music.
Wow.
And wow, it doesn't sound anything like Stairway. So, it was just, I had teachers, but I kind of feel like I just had to poke at it myself a lot and try to figure things out.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. But what bands were you listening to then as a kid growing up?
Oh, sorry. Well, my first album was Simon and Garfunkel's Bookends. And the acoustic guitar riff on Mrs. Robinson, come on, that thing swings. Yeah. And then I just kind of liked, I like disco, the first disco, Donna Summer. And that just kind of led me to R&B and funk and ultimately a lot of jazz. So I wasn't really rock centric. I dug it, but for some reason the R&B end of things called to me more.
Incredible. And what was your first guitar that you played as a kid? So what did you pick up?
It was a toy. I actually still have it, like a little plastic toy that you can tune. It's in the attic or something like that. So that was my first, and then my mom got me a Ventura acoustic, and I think they're still around. Actually, they were half decent, probably made in Japan, I'm guessing, right? And I still have that. It's a great character piece. When it just doesn't sound like, it sort of sounds like a resonator or something. I mean, it sounds awful, but sometimes you need that. So I keep that. And then let's see, my first electric it was one of the, grandma's selling an amp and a guitar from the attic. She doesn't, and so here's $20. So my mom gave her $20, and it was like some Decca semi-hollow body with a little plastic vibrato. Also, I still have it. Also a great character piece.
Amazing. That's so cool. So I really should have kept a lot of my old guitars from when I was a kid, because the amount of guitars that I had, and I don't know about you, but I traded guitars. So I had a crappy, terrible. Is that a cardinal sin? I don't know.
I did that. Do you remember when Ibanez first came out? And they were making Les Paul copies. Okay, so this is going back. And I had and Ibanez wanted their Les Paul. This is before they got sued. So it actually looked exactly like a Les Paul and sounded really good. And I have pictures of myself like when I was 14 years old playing it, and I think I traded it for records. And I was like, dumb. I think they're worth a fortune now. The original Ibanez.
Wow.
So stupid.
But you live and you learn, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
At the end of the day, yeah.
You can't hang on to everything.
Absolutely. Well, what was the first amp that you used as well as a kid? Can you remember what amp you got into?
Oh, who was it? That first one was one of my very early ones, PV something or other. It probably had the little built-in reverb. It was, probably something like that.
Yeah.
And let's see. Well, when I got into college, I had saved, and I really, really wanted a Fender Concert. You remember those? 112 combo, Rivera era, hand-wired. Probably the worst sounding guitar amp I've ever played through. I mean, it's awful. Right. It's terrible. It sounds like angry geese. It's just like this 700 just coming at you. And I've changed speakers and I've done everything, and it's just... But if you pair it with, which I usually do, I pair it with an old amp head 115, just a big wobbly bass speaker, and use it for baritone and bass parts like that. It's great.
Amazing. That's so cool. What about, when you were at college then, so was that when you first started playing in bands, or did you play in bands in high school, did you? Or?
I played in bands. Again, I really didn't have the traditional, join a band, because I didn't know you were supposed to do that. So it was always really, education for me, So, well, if I'm going to play with other people, I should join some sort of formal. So then it's high school band. And then it's the jazz band in high school. But it was a really small high school, so you had to be in the marching band in order to be in the jazz band. So I had to learn how to quack around with a saxophone and march around with the little furry hat in order to be in the jazz band where I actually could play guitar. And so I would do that, and I would jump over to bass when the bass player forgot to come to school. And that kind of just, that just kind of blossomed. And I saved up that summer, and I bought a little Akai 2-track, and I would drag that down to the school and try and record myself playing everything, with the little sound on sound feature. And so it was just that and poking around. And again, by the time I got to college, it was just sort of more of the same. And the problem with college is I couldn't find my place. At that time, all right, so I went to Cal State Northridge, and at that time it was considered a really good music school, not along the lines of a Juilliard or a Berkeley, but here on the West Coast, solid. I get there, and there's two kinds of guitar players there. There's the real guitar players, which are classical guitar players, and then the, miscreants, and those are the jazzers. But by jazzers, they mean like Joe Pass, Barney Kessel, and all props, but I want to be Steve Lukather, man. I want to be Larry Carlton. I want to be Robin. I want to be the guys playing the cool stuff on the cool record. I'm Barney Kessel. So that was, I just had to find my own way. So I kind of just lopped around in a variety of classes, and they kept trying to throw me out. I wanted to take, the guitar harmony course, but it was designed for classical guitar players. And I'm like, what's the difference? One's louder. Harmony is harmony. Just let me in the class. No, you don't have a classical guitar. So I just formed a 90s R&B band and learned how to write for horns, and we just went out and played every club in Los Angeles that's no longer there.
Wow. That's massive. What year was this? What year was this you were doing this?
Probably early 80s. Let's see, I graduated high school 81, so yeah, 82, 83. So at that time, let's see, Billy Vera in the Beaters was huge. He had a huge TV hit, and that was sort of the model for a big R&B horn band. I don't know if that went over into the UK or not. Do you know those guys?
No. It's like no,
okay.
Not massively, but no. Tell us more. It sounds great.
Well, it was sort of, oh God, I'm getting in trouble. It was sort of Tower of Power without the education of it. I mean, they're really blues bands. They're really blues based, but just full on horn arrangements and great songs. It was a very popular model. And so we kind of we did that. And boy, I tell you, nothing teaches more than just doing. Just get out there and start booking your own gigs and lose your gig and try and figure out why you lost the gig and try and keep a band together and try and figure out why you can't keep a band together. It was college. It just wasn't under an official title.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I guess like you learn from, like you said, you learn from the mistakes as you go along, and then you just keep building the momentum. I'm guessing as well. How many gigs were you doing in a year? I mean, what's the most amount of gigs you've done in a year? Would you say?
Wow. Well, at that time, and I was also doing a lot of casuals, so it was like every weekend. And with the casual bands, they would do 2 and 3 a day. I mean, we were cranking. With the R&B band, maybe once a weekend at that time, which for a bunch of college students is pretty great. Especially for, a cover band. The casual bands are going to work more often. So, yeah, because I got into and I played a lot of styles, which, if you're talking to a young guitarist, somebody who can find their way around the real book and jazz standards and play some rock, and that's, there's gigs to be had, but mostly, the casual world. So, kind of just working really hard, but not with a real focused direction for many years.
Amazing. So when did that new focus come into play? So because all of a sudden you were working with incredible artists like Art Garfunkel and Tracy Chapman and Terry Lynn, and the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Was it Whose Line Is It Anyway? Did that gig come first, or
no,
all these different artists? How did it come about, the whole thing?
Yeah, no, Whose Line was down the road. It was just a lot of bar bands and playing with cover bands and casuals, and just mantra would say yes to everything, because you don't know who you're going to meet, and every gig is an opportunity to improve. You're going to learn something, and if it's a style you're not familiar with, you're going to fail miserably, and then you won't the next time. And so it was just in a matter of going through this and being in LA, and just you meet other musicians. There's always going to be someone, more experienced, more networked than you are.
Yeah.
And I think I just started getting referred for some small tours. More local stuff, maybe not international, maybe not national, just, from here to Vegas, that kind of thing. And it just kept going. So, let's see, what came first? I think one of my earliest tours with Kirk Whalum, and that was Kirk's a smooth jazz artist. You probably know him.
Yeah.
And I met him through Terry Lynn. I mean, it's all a spider web. I can't remember what came first, but Whose Line was much further down. I think I'd already done the Tracy Chapman tours by the time Whose Line came around. Yeah. And it just, it just builds on itself. I hope I could remember at the time and said my proper thank yous to whoever referred me to the gigs. Oh no, I didn't say Whose Line came about, that was funny. Jennifer Batten referred me. She didn't want to do it. I think at the time she may have been still touring with Jeff Beck. So, and I had already done Tracy Chapman, and she referred me. She didn't want to do it, and I just, sure. I don't like TV shows. I mean, they're kind of grueling, but a gig's a gig. And you say yes to everything. And so I go to the audition. The show had been on for a year at that time. I didn't even know it had been huge in the UK for years before that. So by the time it comes to America, it was still relatively new. Laura Hall was the keyboard player, still is, obviously. And she'd done one season. And I go into audition. And it wasn't exactly like a musical audition. So they put us in a dance rehearsal studio. So think about it, like mirrors and wood floors and reflective, and they go, heavy metal, do something heavy metal. And Wayne's standing there and he doesn't have a mic. And I'm, okay, do you want me to just put it on standby? Well, that... So So it was just weird. But Laura and I, and maybe it's because I had this background I had, which wasn't really band focused or group focused. It was just all of it. I could just jump around, and she would just sort of call changes, and then something funk would come up, and I just sort of go, follow me, and we just kind of clicked. And it was a strange gig. As a friend of mine once said, it's like the world's weirdest casual. You never know what's going to come up, and then it's not really the right thing. It's not really authentic. It's just kind of a version of it. So, they called back and said you got the gig, and I immediately called Laura and apologized.
Wow. Man, but then the rest is history, though, yeah? It's just...
No, I hope not. I hope that's not... let's see. You had asked about Art. I met Art through an artist I was working with, a singer-songwriter, Maia Sharp. And she had been working with him, not steadily, but done a couple projects. And then Maia produced one of his more recent albums, maybe like his second to last, a couple tracks on it. And she brought me in to play with him, and that was so amazing. I mean, he's there, and I can't stand it. So Lee Sklar, Russ Kunkel, Dean Parks was on it. And, I can't stand it. He comes in and I have to start playing Old Friends and, Scarborough Fair and get him singing and stuff like that, which he did. And then I got in trouble because he was supposed to be focusing on the music at hand. But, I'm not going to do it.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's Art. And let's see. I think Tracy Chapman was another audition, probably another Jennifer Batten referral. She's been very, very generous. And that one was where I had to learn how to be in a pop band. She calls me up, and this is the time of Give Me One Reason. So it's that particular song, and that's what we're doing. And that's what they want to hear. So I go up to San Francisco, and all they want to hear is the guitar solo from Give Me One Reason. So Adam was on the record. He leaves. The band's going on tour. I'm always missing the record coming in for the tour, it seems. And all she wants to hear is Give Me One Reason, his guitar solo. And to me, it's a blues. You just play, man. It's just blues. Play it. I kind of didn't get that part. And so I just keep going in, and we count it off, play it, and I'm just playing my own thing. She's like, no, playing my own thing. Do it again. No. Do you want it jazzier? Do you want it, more organic? What do you want? Yeah. And it's like, so I get real frustrated after the first round, and I call Jennifer. I'm sitting there in a hotel room. It's like, dude, what? And she goes, you got to play the solo. I was like, the actual solo, note for note. She goes, yeah. That's why you're there. Play the solo. Oh, okay. So from then on, I learned.
Wow.
And it seemed like, at that time, so many of the auditions, the girl guitar player thing is still a thing. And so when they want a girl guitar player, it is usually for that solo spot. I auditioned for Michael Jackson. I've lost count of times. Every time Jennifer left the Jackson tour to go do Jeff Beck or do something else, it was like, enter girl guitar players all playing Beat It. Not the rhythm part, not the cool stuff, just the solo. I auditioned for that gig so many times, and it just got old hat. You just sort of walk by all the usual suspects, da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Wow, that's insane. How many times did you audition? Can you remember how many times? Or?
I think 4 or 5. Clearly, I never got it.
Wow. Absolutely mad. Well, you worked with, noticed Terry Lynn as well. So amazing.
Terry Lynn,
Lynn, yeah. Amazing drummer. What a drummer.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, so I met her. I think she came to one of Tracy's rehearsals or something like that. So that's where we met. Yeah. And she must have heard something in my playing that I sure didn't, because I would still be a nervous wreck playing around her. I mean, she She knows so much, I'm afraid that I will never know that much. I won't have enough lifetime to know as much as she just does with ease. And so we go to do her album, which won a Grammy, and I actually got a Grammy certificate somewhere.
Wow,
I don't somewhere. And this was a huge lesson. So she's pulling out these charts, and she's been very diligent, and it's, it's Terry Lynn. It's a lot of odd time signatures, intense reading, crazy tempos. And I'm shedding all of this stuff. It's not just show up to the session and she drops a chart. I mean, she's giving you a chance, and I'm just working it. And finally I go to the session, and one particular tune I'm having I'm stumbling. I'm having some problems with. And she comes over, and she just sort of is standing next to me, and she's sort of humming it, and she's sort of singing and sort of swaying. And for some reason, it just sort of occurred to me, the written page is just what we give to each other. If I think of something, I want you to play it. Here's the part. But the bar lines are invisible. It's just melody, and it doesn't matter what key it's in, and it doesn't matter where the bar lines are. It's just a melody. And I don't know, it really changed a lot for me, to have that innate grace and naturalness with music like she does, and then that feel like you kind of got next to it for a few moments. That was really special.
It's incredible. What I love about jazz as well, though, and I don't know how you do it with other jazz musicians, but how the hell do you stop and start together at the same time? It's like it's in sync so perfectly and almost seems effortless when you watch it. I don't know how true that is, but it's amazing to watch.
I've done a few gigs with Terry Lynn, and probably, in fairness, ones I should have said no to. There was one where I had to make like an overnight drive from Oregon to get down to the show in time. We did the Hollywood Bowl Jazz Festival, but wow. I hadn't been playing with her. So she'd been touring on the music we recorded, right? So she's out there touring. I'm off on a singer-songwriter gig playing G. And then I play G. Then I follow that with G. It's just not the same thing, right? Yeah. So no time to shed, and it's sort of moments like that where you just better find your backbone and stand there and pull out every bit of experience and what you've learned, and just trust they wouldn't have called you if they didn't think you could bring something to their show. But, oh man, it's exactly what you're saying. So they've been touring on it. And of course now the tempos are twice as fast as I ever recorded them. I mean, they're unrecognizable, right? And they're just in different sections, and I'm just hang on. You'll get through it someday. Somebody will cue you. Somebody will take mercy. Great band.
Oh, so cool, so cool. What about Jamie Amuro as well? Like, massive in Japan, right?
Namie Amuro, yes, at the time. Okay, so I haven't kept up, but at the time, she was kind of the Michael Jackson of Japan. So we're playing the Tokyo Dome, which seats, I think, 70,000 people or somewhere in there. And she's selling it out like 5-6 nights in a row. I mean, just insane. And that was a huge stage show. Dancers, everything else. The other guitarist on that was Carlos Rios. And my friend Kiki Epson referred me to that. Kiki and I had worked together with Tracy Chapman. And it's so funny because thinking about these tours, and we were talking, it's like I've done a lot of gigs. I've done a lot of type. I feel like I've done all the type of tours you can do. So I've done the first class suites. And, and then I've been the one driving the van and really happy about the half-eaten sandwich I just found under the back seat. Woohoo, that's awesome. But Namie was great, very regimented. By then I'd figured out for a pop gig, you just play the record. And just to remind us, they had the ADATs running, so if your stuff didn't come out, they'd mute you and throw up the part on the ADAT.
Wow, that's insane. It's so cool. And I think you've already touched on it as well, Kirk Whalum. as well. So amazing jazz saxophonist.
Oh yeah, and Kirk is just a doll to work with, and it's just his music is so good, and we just had a great time. That's a little more leaning toward the jazz. Here's the part, give us the record, take it where you can take it. There's a little more flexibility and stuff like that. I'm sounding like a snob, like I can't play pop, I'm too artistic. It's not that. It just took me a while to learn. You can't just do what you want on somebody's pop gig.
No. That's amazing. I'm guessing is that part of being a session musician as well? The fact that every gig is different. You've got to be almost like a chameleon and adapt to each situation that you're in.
Yeah, that's what I think I've always wanted to be. I just didn't know what it was called. Like I say, when I got to college, I want to be the guy on the records. I want to be the one coming up with that little part that just makes the song better, And I think if I had to qualify it, I know I've made a lot of, mistakes and a lot of missteps, but I think all of it is sort of culminated toward what I do now, which is just session work and writing and just looking for the right note at the right time, in this situation. And yeah, especially it's changed, We've all read the Tommy Tedesco book, and you call your carriage guy out Sunday afternoon and give him your schedule for the week, and your 15 rigs go. That's not how it happens anymore. Most of the stuff is out of home studios, And truthfully, I'd rather work from my own studio. I don't want to have to carry everything to your garage in Pasadena with no air conditioning in the middle of the summer. I think you're going to get a better product from me if I'm just here in my own place and you tell me what you want and give me some parameters, and I've got everything that I would want and can be as creative as I want, with whatever sounds, and give you some choices. If I have to cart everything, it's a different world, and you start with limitations.
Absolutely. That's really interesting that you've said that. So I was helping produce an artist, a chap who's on the community, Luke Radden Jackson, last week in a beautiful studio, beautiful desk. Neve Janice, I was telling you before we went live about this, but it's really funny though. He turned round to us and he was due to lay down a solo, and he went, "You know what? I'd be more comfortable at home in my home studio recording this solo, just left alone to do my thing." And I thought, wow, I really kind of took something from that. So it's really interesting that you say that. So I suppose it's your environment, and maybe would you say your environment inspires you and inspires your work and how you play as well?
Well, yeah, it certainly is. I've done a ton of work where you just go to the commercial facility and you set up for whatever you want, and I always like to structure it. Let's just get the basics done, and I'll just pull everything out, and then let's just change gears. Let's put everything away, and let's really talk about, because the solo isn't going to be some variety of tones, tones probably, not what you on the basics. I'm fine with that. People get, different people want a different amount of control. So I've also been the one sitting there and I play 3 notes and then they start humming what they want, note after note. That's okay. It's probably not going to be the best of me, but as a session musician, it has nothing to do with me. I'm the plumber. I'm not going to design your house. I'm just going to fix the sink and then I'm going to leave, And it's interesting. It's just sort of left, unfortunately, here. I know too many friends have closed their commercial facilities because we can do it in a spare room right now. Yeah. For me, I'm comfortable here, and it's always been my priority. Whatever happens in my studio has to be exactly what they would get in a commercial. There can't be any sacrifices. It can't be, oh, well, I know it doesn't sound that good, but I recorded it at home. It has to be, you're going to get from me here exactly what you would get there. And I find it beneficial. It's just, I can give you more, I think, of what you want. You're going to do with it what you want to do. But I think I can give you a better me if I've just got access to everything immediately, quickly, comfortably.
Incredible. So with talking about your studio, So
Yeah.
how did you learn to initially use all the gear? Was it from doing session work when you were in studios? Did you have anyone mentoring you to teach you at the very beginning when you started learning how to record and how to mix and things like that?
Yeah, finally a mentor stands up. Well, I bought this little 2-track, little Akai with sound on sound, and I used to always want to record myself, and then I always used to want to overdub. And that should have told me something, because I still just want to record. So I moved from that, and then what were the lineages? The Porta Studios, right?
Yeah.
I just went through them all. What was the Roland stuff? The VS 880 or something like that, where the little digital with. You remember that?
Let me. I've still got my.
You got one.
That's
the one.
Studio.
Well, you got the 16. You're so bougie.
Yeah, old school, very old school. Yeah.
You know, I recently sold mine for a good chunk of money. Hang on to it.
Yeah.
I like doing it. I didn't know what I was doing. As I'm working and everything, I start sort of falling into composing work, student films, documentaries, and so all of a sudden now I have to mix. And I have to mix because there's $50 in the budget, and that's got to cover everything. And if you think I'm going to give some of that to a mixing engineer after I've just been writing for 2 months, it's not going to happen. So I'm going to do it myself and figure it out. And it sounded terrible, as you would guess, because I didn't know anything. So I just sort of put the faders up to where I thought they should be, and then mush. You're welcome. I just kept poking at it. Finally, I realized, and it was probably right before I got on Whose Line, time to get in with the computers, and I jumped into Digital Performer. And that was my first system. And, you know, this stuff sort of reveals itself to you as you grow. You know, as your ears change, you hear it. You know, you hear the limitations of the gear, you hear what it's doing for you and where it's sort of holding you back and that kind of thing. And then I was sort of hearing it with Digital Performer. I was hearing, you know, they at that time were using their own hardware. And I was hearing things just like imaging things. Okay, but I put the hi-hats here. Why are they kind of here? That kind of thing, you know, just a... not as accurate as I would hope.
Yeah.
So everybody at that time, you know, Pro Tools was it. Pro Tools was the rich man's tool. It was but de facto standard, and that's what you do. So I jumped into Pro Tools around version 5. And I can't remember. My friend Larry Getz, he owns a beautiful room out here in Los Angeles, the Larry Recording. Maroon 5, Katy Perry, a lot of people have worked there. And he is really, really an engineer as opposed to a musician / engineer. He's really an engineer / musician, you know, sort of a little different focus. He's the guy who solders the console together. He's the guy who knows how to work it. He's the guy who knows every piece. And I think we talk pretty much every day, and he's the guy I rely on. Okay, I have to do this 80s kind of track. What's the reverb on the snare? And he knows, AMS. This setting, this pre-delay. This is exactly how we did it. Yeah. And that's invaluable because, all right, so you start learning this, right? You get your software. And if you're like me, a musician sort of falling into it, I don't know what an 1176 is. I think I'm supposed to use it. Oh, look, here's a Bomb Factory plugin. You know, and that's how we kind of learn them, which means we don't really know what the actual piece does. And we won't be able to use it the way you can. I mean, I feel like this stuff can be used like this stuff, but you have to dig in. You have to know what it does. What does it fundamentally want in terms of signal? What does it want to do? And that's kind of what I'm always striving to learn is I want to be able to create here and feel that powerful, you know, that enabled with this stuff is with that.
Yeah.
So Larry he's just the guy who guides me, and to this day I call him every day, and he always says, he came to production, and all his acts that he produces is from the engineer point, and I come at it from a musician angle. It feels right. I get to put guitar in a place that may or may not be about the guitar. It's about the guitar's role in the song, and I like it, love it.
Absolutely amazing. And so just looking at your setup as well, what you've got behind you there, Linda, is absolutely incredible. That's great. So tell us some of the bits of gear that you use in your studio as well, and what pieces you're currently using without that side of things.
Absolutely. Pro Tools, and just recently dipped my toes into Dolby Atmos.
Wow.
So, head exploding. A lot of information. Like I said before, I want everything to be coming from here what you get anywhere, whether you go to Ocean Way or somebody's garage. I just want it to be the same thing, so I've always sort of don't reinvent the wheel. If someone uses a 57 in front of Eric Clapton, use your 57 in front of your amp. We've done that, so I just try to buy the appropriate, most often used pieces. The BAE 1073, one side of that is permanently hooked up to the Audioscape A2A. If you're not hip to them, check them out, because I think I mentioned them to you. They're doing just absolute detail, point by point, of the original. And I've got 2 of their G buses here, which is the SSL, right? And I actually had one of Larry's original FX G384s here, and I was able to do a side by side, and it was sort of like the difference between a new car and one car that's 2 years older. I mean, it wasn't a different car. It was just you're hearing, older components, probably from something that was installed in a professional studio. So who knows what it's been subjected to. I recently picked these up. These are the Spectrasonics, the company's Spectra 1964, 1965 from Ardent Studios, from Record Plant. And this is the 100D preamp, and this is the 600 preamp comp limiter. So it's got the circuit of the comp limiter along with the preamp, and the 100D is the same as their 101 series preamp. And again, Larry, I was looking, I need another color, I need another sound in here. And he said, are you hip to? And every time Larry says, are you hip to, I get poor. So it's just, follows. So these are amazing. They're changing my game, really. They're sonically exactly the same as the Spectra vintage gear. They're hand sourcing the components here in Utah. The 100D is an accurate input waveform. I mean, what you put in it is exactly what you get out. And I guess the easiest way for me to say it is, I'm hearing on playback exactly what I'm hearing in the room. And the way it changes my workflow is I just put up a 57, and I'm not missing anything. I've kind of gone down the road. I've always been a multi-mic cabinet person, and it's gotten a little crazy lately. Now we're looking at 4 and 5 mics, and on a song where there's like 3 or 4 guitar parts, that's really just unnecessary, because I'm going to have to mix it. So, with one mic, it just cleans up your workflow. You can make better choices, and I've just got those, so I'm blown away by those. Everything's sort of hardwired. The distressors are hardwired to the 312s. The DBXs, these are old and wobbly, and they live right on the snare bus or the kick bus, usually just the snare. A couple 1176s, I think it's out of the camera range. Where are they going? Probably off the retro. I'm kind of leaving out at the patch bay right now and just sort of going through everything as I want it to appear. I'm sorry, the 1073 out of the Audioscape into the 550B. And then I've started reamping what I need to. Like I'm working with Sarah Nimitz, and wonderful. I'm so thrilled to be working with her. And she'll send over her vocals, and on this last tune, I was just going for something different, and I just redid all of her vocals, just kept reamping them through the 1073s, the 1176s, just get them gritty, get them on the edge, that kind of thing. So I suppose it's not really a hybrid, because once I'm in the box, I don't really leave it. So it's plugins from there, but I'm trying to capture it as well and creatively as I can.
That's amazing. That's so cool. So I love that 500 series behind you as well. That's absolutely fantastic.
Which one?
Just the whole set of the 500 series, like, you know, the outboard gear that you've got, that's amazing. But with the speakers as well, is there any reason why you've gone for those particular speakers? So I can see, is it a Focal, and obviously the good old NS10 as well, that we all know and love and hate all at the same time, you know?
So again, Larry said, you know, get the CMS 65. I mix very quietly. And they're just, you can see they're right here. They're as even as, you know, for my ears, they just work. They're very reasonably priced. I've got the horror tone, which I rely on a lot. So you actually posted something about monitor controlling today, right?
Yeah, today. Yeah, I did.
So I've got the dangerous, the D box here, and that does all my monitor selections. So Focals are my main. NS10s are when you want to abuse yourself, right? It's like the well-lit mirror before you go outside, the full-length mirror before you put on the bathing suit. That's what that does. And then the Ortone. But once I feel like I'm close, I'm pretty much living on the Ortone. So it's you know, again, the full-length mirror.
Amazing. So
well, people don't listen to it on their iPhone like this, so you might as well just go there first, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that, Linda, because I think I read somewhere, and I've talked to a few other engineers and pros like yourself about this, that predominantly people these days are listening to music on their earbuds. Well, I don't know what the percentage is, like 80, 90%, whatever, something crazy. So it's just the fact that that's nuts, the fact that they're never really fully getting maybe the best quality sound that engineers are hearing, so not really 9 times out of 10 hearing the music how artists actually intended the music to be, or the engineer intended the music to be as well at the same time. But I don't know if you saw this, I think it was Sylvia Massey that posted this yesterday about Apple and their new technology that they're doing at the minute as things stand. So I've not checked it out yet, but the whole concept of like 3D and like, I think they're using Dolby Atmos as well, if that's right, and it sounds incredible. You know, the whole concept sounds incredible.
It's really interesting. So mixing always reflects the delivery, right? You know, Motown had to shave all the bass off because the delivery method is vinyl, and vinyl has very limited low end, right? So we're always going to mix toward how it's delivered. And right now, you know, the loudness, the 2x4 waveform, that came because, first of all, nobody's just sitting and listening to a record anymore, right? It's just on your phone, or it's in the background while you're watching a television show, or it's in an earbud, you know. So you could give them this beautifully dynamic ranged recording, but it's not going to be listened to that way. So you've got to grab their attention. And I was really interested to see, you know, it goes by your feed and you ignore it and all the ads, and you know, it's just overload. And then finally I see a couple friends have already jumped into Atmos, and I see that Apple is and Tidal. And so I don't know if it's premature to say, but this is going to be, is this now a delivery expectation?
Right. And
you know, to get into that system, well, that's a substantial amount of time, money. But then I just started thinking about it. It's like, look, if that's what is going to be expected on the delivery end, then you know somebody is going to just start doing it without the array. They'll just start using the binaural, right? The hip kids are going to do that because that's what they do. They're not going to talk about the Studer. They're just going to do it in a laptop. and they can't hear your complaints because the Grammy truck is backing in and making all those, So I've just, like, I'm in week 1. I've dabbled my toes in, but I can see where it's going, and if it gives you some more enjoyment and the delivery is there and you can just hear it on a certain pair of earbuds or whatever, then we've got to learn it. We've got to know what it is. And I'm certainly not set up for it. I don't have the physical space, but who cares? I'll do that because I think that's what the kids are going to do. And they're going to go, look, I can put a kick drum here and then it'll go back here. And, all the old people go, you can't do that. And they'll go, thank you, Boomer. And they're going to put their kick drum here and then it's going to come down here. And why not? That's what it's supposed to be, Just try it. So my friend Michael James, another engineer producer that I lean on heavily, he and I are collaborating. So we're taking one of Sarah's songs and doing a Dolby Atmos remix of it. I think it's also artist dependent. Sarah's music really could lend itself toward the fun that Dolby Atmos promises. Every song she sends me 47 background vocals. Now, imagine what I could do with that, right?
Oh, yeah, completely. It sounds incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, I always mess up her name, Imogen Heap.
Right.
Is it?
Oh, is it Imogen Heap? Is it? I don't might be wrong. Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But imagine what someone like she's going to do with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be crazy. Imagine what a jazz guy can do with it. It's not just post anymore. It's not just composition. It's just imagine what these artists can do with it. And even on the Dolby Atmos side, they did a remix of What's Going On, right? Marvin Gaye. And you listen to it, it's like, they didn't do anything fancy. It was nothing weird. It was just sort of respecting, but giving a little depth if you were sitting there listening to the live band. And it just put it, the cymbals were a little higher, because if I'm sitting in front of the stage, the cymbals are probably over my head, aren't they? And it was, it's compelling. I'm willing to go down the rabbit hole.
That's so great, though. I mean, you're absolutely touching on how technology changes as well. I was talking to a few engineers about this as we've done these wonderful interviews. We've been so blessed and honoured, like yourself, to join over the last few months. And engineers have said to me, 15, 20 years ago, plugins were almost like a joke, like VST
right.
plugins, and everyone was there going, oh, no way can, I don't know, like an LA2A, actual compressor, no way can that be taken over by, this, plugin that costs $100 or whatever it costs. But then all of a sudden people are going, oh, wait, it sounds almost not quite the same, but it's damn close. And technology is moving, so closely. And, the amount of engineers I talk to, that have got, massive like rack mount gear behind them, but yet they go, predominantly I'm in the box. What I've learned from all these interviews so far, I don't know if you're the same, but with all the outboard gear that you've got, so it's about capturing the greatest sound at source or reamping, like you said. But then once you're in the box and you've got all your stems, or you've got all your tracks at the ready in the box, it works. It can work great. And Andrew Sheps is a leading example of that. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's it. There's also the reality, we don't work in a world where you can just leave a mix up on a desk for 3 days waiting for somebody to come back with their comments. You're going to move from mix to mix, from project to project. So there's no time. I was actually having this conversation, I don't know if you know Matt Qualls, engineer from Memphis, and he's doing some amazing work. It's just, you like shoegaze stuff, check out his stuff with Spectroliet. It's amazing. Yeah, and he's been a huge inspiration. He's on Instagram and he posts these great pictures of just this murky, funky, gritty old gear, the knobs falling off, and you just like this. Yeah, give me that. And we're having this conversation. I'm like, so you must be just running around repatching everything all day long. And he's like, no, I record the hell out of it going in. And then once it's in the box, it just stays there. And truth is, let's face it, with this hardware, my 1176s are reasonably new, probably 10 years old or less, right? Mm-hmm. I can't recreate this setting one day from another. Whatever I left it on yesterday, I'm doing the whole, scratchy pot thing, and it's different. So to have to try and do recalls as fast as we're working right now, I'd be surprised to find anybody who's really, leaving the box that much once they're in.
Absolutely, and I think what I've learned as well, I'm pretty much like an amateur going into intermediate, and I've got an amazing mentor that helps me from time to time in the mastering world as well. And what I've learned is the fact that as long as you've got as a mastering engineer, as long as you've got a great converter, your A to D, D to A is good. Great, and it sounds awesome on your speakers, and it sounds awesome on your headphones. Then that's half the battle. On the rest, if you've got an amazing processor on your computer, you can stay in the box and use some wonderful plugins, and you can pretty much show up at any studio on the go with your laptop, hook yourself up, and you're good to go. It's insane. It's the
insane. New model, and the plugins. Are you hip to the Acoustica stuff?
Yeah, they've got some crazy cool stuff. It looks fun. Thing is, though, for a gearhead, it's like plugins for gearheads, though, isn't it, I suppose?
They spend a lot of time on the visual of it. That stuff is crazy good, And let's face it, once you capture it in a way you want, then whatever plugins you're going to be leaning on are probably more surgical. If you've captured the character, right? So then you don't need like very intense. I don't need this Neve clone console plugin. I'll just use something surgical and clean to just tidy it up a little bit. So I just think it's a different world, and I love the hardware. It teaches me, what this hardware is going to do. Like every piece is different, just like a guitar amp is different. And what can I put through it, and what's really going to shine through it, But once it's in there, there's just no time to do it another way. I think McDSP came out with something where it's like analog processing of the. Am I right on this? Of the plugins, and so and I don't feel the pull toward that. I'm very happy with things the way they sound going in. There's never enough gear, so I'm already thinking about my next few pieces.
Yeah.
But the world has changed, and it's faster, and we don't have the luxury of time. And there's the reality, some of these older pieces, if you really have a vintage LA2A, do you know how to fix it? Because if you don't, it's going to be hard to find somebody who does. It's like in an old car.
Yeah, completely. Whereas if you don't like the LA2A plugin from X brand, you could go to another brand and download the plugin with that company, and you're all set, right? It's bonkers. And for me, I've played around with quite a few different plugins recently, but I've recently got into Leapwing, the Dyne 1 as well. So the Leapwing just sounds incredible. The Dyne 1 is just voodoo. I don't know how Robin and the team have done that. And then PSP as well. What else have we been playing around with? Like Melder Productions. The list just goes on and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. Fab Filter, of course. Q3 is great. Great EQ. So intuitive, and it's fantastic. But you touched on guitar amps as well. So Linda, tell us about those awesome guitar heads that you've got behind you. Tell us through them.
All right, let me get away. Can you see? Get more out of the way. This is how we make the sausage.
Absolutely.
All right, can you see? Yay.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a company. I think, again, my friend Larry, who's going to be famous Larry at the end of this because he keeps telling me how to spend my money. The top one is these three here are divided by 13. The company is out of Newport Beach here in California. And Fred, the builder, is doing sort of a modern build of old designs, of vintage designs. I think the key to these amps is that he makes them very low wattage, so you get to the saturation point much earlier. Okay, so the first one, the top one there is the BTR 23. It's KT80 power tubes. It's 23 watts. It will take your face off. It's basically a Vox, and it grinds like Vox. It's all mid-range. There's not, they always talk about a Vox as being really sparkly on the top. It's not. It's just mid-range, and it's in your face, right? And, that's what we want. That's what we like about it. This is 23 watts. I have never been able to open this up without an attenuator. It just, that's what he does. So you get the saturation very early on. Next one down is the AMW 39 watts. Think of it like a Plexi. EL34s. It does the overdrive, but it'll get you to the lead sound, the smooth singing lead very nicely. It cleans up really well. The one I'm plugged into now is like a big twin, 6v6s, 37 watts, again, ridiculously loud. But the saturation comes very early on. So, there's times you've been playing through a twin, it's like it's so loud and it won't do anything else but be loud and clean. This is the answer. So this is my gain wall when I'm recording. I don't use pedals. I'll use them for modulation, effects, delays, and everything, but the gain is always coming from the amps. Super lead below that from the 80s. I don't remember what year. JCM below that. You may not be able to see it. And then I have on this side of the studio, sort of the clean wall, which I don't think you can see. Do you want me to move the camera?
It's up to you. Go for it if you want to. Yeah.
I'm going to mess this up. Something's going to explode. Let's see. Okay, tell me if you can see. Yeah?
Yeah.
Kinda?
Amazing. Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I'm going to join the video people union. Okay, on the right there, the gray one. Can you see?
Yeah.
All right. That's the, which one is that? That's my EDT, and that is 23 watts, switchable to 18, I think. Some of the most beautiful clean sounds. Next to that is like a tweed vibe, another 6v6. You know what the other two are. So that's my clean wall. All right, so come back here. Woohoo! Close, right?
Awesome.
So yeah, and then I've got cabinets over there, and I can just plug into whatever I need. I've got a train wreck clone over there that's wonderfully wobbly and crazy. It's sort of like, riding a crazed horse through a barn fire or something. So you have to attenuate that. But yeah, the clean wall, so there's no reason to really track with pedals outside of delay or reverbs. And I'm very excited to see what the Spectra stuff does. Every time you throw a bunch of mics on a cabinet, there's always an overlap. It's not like the Royer is doing nothing that the 57 is doing. Of course there's an overlap. And if you're doing what I've been doing, which is putting like 4 and 5 mics on a cabinet, then by the time you sit down and mix it, you go, this is a mess. This is just, what was I thinking? So I'm very excited to start incorporating the Spectra modules into this and just hear all the things that I'm missing, and in a way that just streamlines the workflow. So that'll be nice.
Amazing. That's so cool. Have you used one before, one of the robot arms? I think David Kalmusky's got one where it's got like a robot arm with a microphone. It's like so cool.
I know, and I want that room. I want that room where the cabinets are just set up, and you just have the whole array, and you just sit there and hit buttons. Oh, the dream. No, I do what I just did. I crawl around and plug things in.
But that's fun. It's fun. It's great. It's amazing. Tell us about your awesome. You've got some crazy guitars, Linda. But tell us about some of your guitar collection that you've got. I find guitars a lot less interesting than amps for some reason. Wow, I don't know, maybe just because I've always been doing this my entire life. Yeah. I want one of every sound. So I have one Les Paul, I think it's a custom shop 82.
And I don't need 15 Les Pauls. When I want a Les Paul, I just need a Les Paul sound. So it's sort of whatever the song needs. I've got a nice Gretsch, 335. It's just sort of one of each. I've got a Fano here for the Jazz Master, the P90 vibes.
Nice.
What's my favorite? I don't have it. The one in tune.
Yeah.
The one in
tune.
The one I don't have to restring. I just want to play 3 more notes.
Oh, amazing. So cool.
Every time I go to Whose Line, there's always some guy, what's your favorite guitar? It's like, the one I'm packing up so I can go home now. That's my favorite. Oh, that's fun.
Oh, brilliant. So cool. It's like, I tell you, I've got a very quick story for you. I've told a couple of other people this story, but I saw on Facebook Marketplace, there was a guy that was selling, Epiphone Les Paul Custom Pro. So I don't know what it is in dollars. It must be like $750, $700, but in sterling it's about £600. Anyway, so the neck was broken, brand new guitar, but the neck was broken. But the guy who fixed it was like a proper, guitar repair bloke. And anyway, so he decided to just sell it quickly for £60. So that guitar
you did.
And he was happy with it, but but the neck, it's fine and it plays great. But it's but in dollars that must be like $80. But that's like $750 guitar. But the guy was just like, no, I'm like, are you sure? He's like, the guy's just like, yeah, fine. But I tell you what, I've never driven down the motorway so fast. Just slightly over the limit maybe, but I'm just going, can't get the guitar. I just said to my other half, I'm buying this guitar. She's like, another one? But I was like, no, this is a good deal. This is a good deal. I've got to grab this guitar, but
it just comes down to, for me, that one is, guitars are like whatever the sound is I'm missing. So, and if the track needs a Rickenbacker, I will buy a Rickenbacker. I guess I would be working on a bird song, but whatever it needs.
Sure.
A few different acoustics. Got a beautiful 67 Gibson Country Western. It's gorgeous. It sounds wonderful. And it's never in tune and it always buzzes. It's this cranky old woman, and every time I pull it out, it plays beautifully. But you're going to have to punch every other bar because it's just buzzing, and there's no reason for it to be buzzing. Yesterday it was buzzing here. Today it's buzzing here. It's just... Yeah. I've got a Taylor 910, which after 25 years is finally starting to open up and sound like something. Just sort of one of everything. There's limited space physically to put anything, and... I don't know, guitars are less interesting to me. I'd rather have a few more amps or a few more preamps or a few more mics for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. Or pedals as well. Tell us about some of the pedals that you use.
Yeah, the pedal boards are behind there somewhere. Like I say, for me, pedals are what I do live. You can't bring all the amps. So you pick the amp that will capture most of what you need and do the rest with pedals. Let's see, Overdrive, I really like, he's on Instagram as Snouse, Snouse, and he makes a blues breaker style, low gain, but now he's modified it to a nice smooth high gain, so if you're looking for something like that, absolutely. The Barber pedals for nice amp-like overdrive. What else? Anything? I showed you this earlier. I just got hip to this guy. Bunar? I don't know how you pronounce it. It's basically the Echo Sex, the Benson kind of vibe. So if you're looking for that kind of delay, I bought a lot of pedals that claim to do that. And this one, while it isn't a Benson, it smokes all the others. So if you're thinking pedals as plugins, this is one of the better plugins.
Incredible. And I know that you're a Strymon fan as well, so you said you quite like Big Sky and Timeline as well. Yeah.
Usually the Big Sky, I use it as an insert.
Right.
So just, reamp through a couple of the radial X amps, and I'll use that as an insert for reverb tracks. It's terrific. The timeline is, what can't you do with it? I really love their El Capistan, sort of the tape deck. That's usually on a pedal board. So the pedals are just, there's a few pedal boards I've probably been cherry picking as I'm tracking, since there's no gigs, and putting stuff off pedal boards, so I don't know what condition they're in, but I'm only using like the time-based effects when I'm tracking. I'm not using any kind of grind.
No, amazing. So cool. No, thanks for sharing that with us as well. Oh, the keyboards behind you, I can see some keyboards. What keyboards are you using at the minute?
I'm going to embarrass myself again. Is it Moog or Moog? Little Fatty.
Either way, either or.
Either or?
Yeah, Moog,
Beautiful.
Moog or Moog, I don't know. Everyone pronounces it differently, don't they?
That thing is crazy good. You can run, it's just mono, right? But you just hook it up to a bunch of guitar effects and pedals. Oh, that's a good one. The Pigtronics Echo, it's like their best Echo. Check it out. It's wonderful, and it's crazy programmed, and you hook it up to your MIDI beat clock, and it just chases, and it's wonderful. So I'll use that on the Little Fatty quite a bit. And, that's so versatile. Just run it through a distortion pedal. I've done like 5 tracks of that on a song just because of the, variation. And that's some cheesy old synth from, it's the Roland XP50.
Right.
So I'll be very popular now with the Tame Impala fans, right? Because it's a cheesy old synth. Yeah. Okay. I don't play keyboards. I dabble. When I need a keyboard part, I always send it out. I've got a friend, Ed Roth, who has been tracking with me quite a bit. And you know what? He did it right. He's got all the vintage keyboards, the Whirly Rhodes, beautiful piano. He put them all in a really nice space, and then he hired his friend Ryan Hewitt to come over and mic everything up. And so it's just set for him. And so the tracks that he sends me, not only are they beautifully played, but they sound great. One of the keys to working remotely, make sure what you're putting out there really is competitive, really sounds the way it needs to.
Absolutely. And with the sounds as well, what microphones are you digging at the minute? What do you tend to use quite a bit?
Lean on the 57. I was doing the 57 and Royer combination for a long time, and then I just got bored of it. It wasn't hitting. And so now I'm doing the 421 57 combination. Acoustics, I love my Sheps. I've got one of the older, is it CMC with the Mark IV capsule. And I cracked the code on that finally. The trick is, you always think like 12th fret and right here. No, put it like, give yourself a foot and a half. And it just does such a beautiful, even job of the acoustic. It's really lovely. So the Sheps for that. I'll probably pick up an AKG 414 to the acoustics. I've got one of those Toll mics. I don't know if you've heard of them, TUL. No. Australian-based company. They sort of did a Make a Better Mousetrap 57. They put a filter on it to take some of that nastiness of a 57 away. You've got to place it a certain way, right on the grill, and center of cone, and then it does something which gives you the speak of a 57 without the nastiness of a 57. Got a couple Royers, 121 and 122, but like I say, everything guitar-wise has been 421 right now with a 57. And then I double that, and then I double that, and then I put up some room mics, and then I hate myself when I go to mix. So I'm hoping I'm out of that phase.
Oh man, did you give yourself, that's really interesting that you brought that up. So do you give yourself time in between tracking and engineering and then mixing? Do you maybe give yourself a day or two to live with the songs and what you've done, or do you just jump straight onto the mix and you're good to go? What's your workflow? How do you do it?
There's no time. If I'm working on a TV cue, sometimes those requests come in the same day. Do you have something like this? And you go, I'll get it to you. and then you panic and you do it. So you have to start, everything's just sort of in your head, and it's just a matter of making it now. You know what it's going to taste like, just make it. I used to do that now, but by the time I'm done tracking the song to where I'm happy, where it's time to mix, I've done the work, you know, the sounds are already there. It's so funny because it really feeds itself, you know? I mean, being a producer makes my guitar playing better because now I know what it should be, what the guitar tone should be. And then being the person mixing, I hate to call myself a mix engineer, but the person who's going to mix it, that makes me a better producer because I know you can't put these two sounds together. It's just going to be madness at the end of the day. So it just feeds itself, and I really like that part of it.
That's incredible. So do you tend to record everything first before you mix, or do you mix on the go as you go along as you're recording, or do you do it as two separate processes?
I guess the answer would be sort of as you're going along. If I know that I have to high pass this synth pad, I'll just do it. I mean, there's no reason to wait. Most of my stuff is, you know, I guess organically mixed. Well, gosh. The stuff I do with Sarah, it's all over the map. Our last tune, it's our new tune that comes out in a couple weeks. She was listening to a lot of neo-psych. And I felt like, this one actually busted my chops a little bit because I kept trying to take this song that is not really fitting in with a neo-psych. You know, if you go to the Spotify playlist of neo-psych, this song may not fit in there. It's a little happier, it's a little jazzier. And I kept trying to push it into this place that it just didn't want to live there. And I found myself retracking guitars a lot. I kept going for the beaky shoegaze sound, you know, just drenched in reverb. And the song wasn't holding it, you know. It was kind of making me crazy. And so finally I realized that it is 60s style and it is psych, but it's more like 60s pop, like when we used to call, you know, pop music like Dean Martin. It's not Dean Martin, but, you know, it's that more sophisticated. It isn't Jefferson Starship. It's like Dusty Springfield on All the Drugs or something. There's jazz chords in there played in a rock kind of environment. So the way the 60s session musicians would have played pop because they were secretly jazzers, that kind of thing. And so that was a lot of sort of mixing and tweaking as I was getting things together. If I'm going to put this enormous reverb all over the snare, I got to know where that sits before I put anything else down, you know?
Makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. Do you do any mastering yourself, or do you tend to send off the track to a mastering engineer? How does that work in your studio?
This is the part where we're not going to be friends anymore, right?
Right. No, it's fine. If you master your own work, Linda, that's cool.
I'm not a mastering engineer. I've been doing my own shaping at the end of it. And truly, if I have to do that much work after it's a stereo file, then I miss something before then. So, given all the budget in the world, then I'm going to happily, there's no ego here, I'm going to happily send it out. And until there's all the budget in the world, I'm going to be very busy learning how to do things.
That's amazing, and it's so great. Do you feel, I think I've spoken to a lot of engineers about this, that feel like they're forever students of music. So even like when they get into like their 70s or 80s, it's like people like Bob Katz and Bob Olson are still pushing the boundaries. You know, it's amazing. You know, it's like, do you feel like you're forever learning?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to. It's exciting. First of all, everything's changing. I mean, think about everything we've been talking about. It's like all we know about stereo is about to go away because of Dolby Atmos. And everything we think about, you know, just changes. And who used to think that we just had this stuff in our back room and be making records? I mean, you know, everything's changing. So yeah, absolutely keep learning and my perfect week is when I spend like a day mixing, a day writing, a day producing, and a couple days practicing guitar. That would be like perfect week. I have yet to hit on it, but I try.
Amazing. That's so cool. Absolutely awesome. Linda, thank you so much for your time today. Thank
Absolutely.
you. But before you go, absolutely honored to have you on. Anything that you're going to be doing next, or what's next on your journey? Is it more TV work, more session work that you're going to be working on? What's
there's
the future?
There's rumors that Who's Lyne we're going to kick up again next year and start filming again. So I'll have to remember how to do it because it's been a while. Let's see. I'm really excited about my work with Sarah Nimitz. She's a joy to work with, and she absolutely inspires me. I'm better because I work with her, and I'm hoping the same for her. My friend Michael James, the engineer, he is starting a collaborative communal project where we're all working together. So it's engineers, it's artists, it's all going to fall under one label, and I'll be working with him. And he's trying to push me back into the artist, my name on the front of the album thing, which I've never wanted, so I'm going to fight him on that. But he whatever, he wants it, and we'll fight on down the road. I like to be the name on the back of the album. And then I've got a lot to learn on the Dolby Atmos, so I'll probably head down trying to scrape away at that and see what I can break.
Amazing. To be fair, you and me both, I need to learn as well. It's like it's a whole new world, isn't it? It's so exciting, and it's
what I'm learning? I learned, don't try and do it from scratch. Take one of your finished mixes, stem it out, print all your effects, and then just practice putting those things in places, like your stems with their effects, so your background vocals with their reverb. Put them into place. Start small. I know I did the same thing. I just okay, I'm going to remix this, and it's like, man. But that's a handy tip there.
That's awesome. Linda, thank you so much. I'm sure if the community will find that really useful, and whoever watches that as well, to be fair, when they're testing out their mixes with Atmos as well. But Linda, feel free to hang around as well after we've finished the live. We have had some comments sent through as we've gone along as well, so just to let you know, you might have seen them come through. A lot of comments have been, hey everyone, and thanking you, Linda, for joining today as well, which is awesome. And we've had people watching us from the UK, from South America,
nice,
all over the place, which has been absolutely lovely. Adam has commented. He says, "I have some knowledge into guitars, but I'm not an expert. Is jazz guitar more difficult than classical guitar? I find it is on piano, but unsure if it's the same rule for guitar."
I would say it's equally difficult in different ways. The control over both hands that you need in classical guitar to properly make the articulations is different than you'd use for jazz guitar. That being said, the jazz harmony obviously is its own world. So it's equally but different.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Amazing. No, thanks so much for that, Linda. But Linda, thank you so much for your time today. It's super excited to hear the work that you're doing next as well. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Really I appreciate it. So nice meeting you, Rich.
You too. Thanks a lot, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining.